my channel. It's Chelsea, where we talk about all things glam and all things girly. I am a beauty enthusiast that loves to talk about everything dealing with beauty and makeup, and today, blush, bronzers, and highlighters, the best of those in 2021. So I don't want to delay this video because we got a lot to talk about, but I do want to say thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I truly do appreciate it, and let's get right into this video. And for those of you who do celebrate, Merry Christmas Eve. Okay, let's start off with bronzers. All right, the bronzer that I fell in love with the very beginning of this year was and still is, the Danessa Myricks. This is her cream contour. I wear the shade medium 3. I am wearing it today, and this was just, it was everything for me. So this is what it looks like. Mine is heavily beat up, and what I love so much about this cream bronzer contour is that it was just that, a bronzer contour. So this shade is quite neutral, obviously leaning a little cooler, but on the face it doesn't look too cool toned. So for months I wore this as my bronzer contour, and I didn't feel like it was too cool against my complexion to where my face just looked way too cool toned and way too like structured and contoured. I could also wear this as a bronzer, and this just looked more neutral as a bronzer. But depending on what other colors I paired onto my face, we could pull out some of that cool toned of this bronzer, and then I could get like that structured look. Formula, impeccable. I did not have to worry about only putting this on to unset skin. A lot of times I would set my face and then apply this. It blends out so effortlessly and smoothly. And one of the other things I loved about this bronzer is that if I went a little heavy-handed and added too much of it, it literally just blends into the skin. So you almost can't go overboard with it. It's just amazing. And like even today, I was applying it across my forehead and I put a little bit too much. And so I just went in with my foundation brush and like tapped it in, and everything just looked quite seamless, blended. I mean, from what I can see, it doesn't look too stark on my forehead. And it's just the easiest cream contour I've ever had to work with. It's the perfect balance between being emollient, but then not being too emollient or too greasy, dewy. You don't have to set this, so you can literally apply it to the face and then keep it moving. It's just, I can't say enough good things about it. It is one of those products that I'm like, if you are interested in a cream bronzer, this is definitely a must-have in your collection. Okay, on to, I'm trying to go in order of how things came out this year, and you guys know that don't work for me, so I'm just gonna go as I see them. But we will get through the cream bronzers first. How about that? The other cream bronzer that I really enjoyed this year was by Chanel. So, you know, Chanel finally decided I'm gonna go ahead and release another cream bronzer. And, you know, some people didn't like this new formulation because it does have coconut oil in it, but the coconut oil doesn't bother my skin. I do really enjoy the formulation of this cream bronzer, and I also enjoy the color. I like that it's quite neutral, but it does have a slight radiance to it. So if you look very closely, and I don't know if you can see this on camera, but you'll see a gold sheen that is infused throughout the bronzer. But when you apply it to the face, it looks very natural and very more so matte than it does, you know, like shimmery. So I can definitely work with this. Love everything about it. I think it's a beautiful product, and I think it's one that if you are interested in it and you're like, you know, I really think I could like it, and if you're not comparing it to the older formulation, because I did hear that the older formulation of this cream bronzer was better. I wasn't ever able to try that because that original shade didn't work for me, but I think this bronzer is really nice. In terms of formula, it is less emollient than the Danessa Myricks cream bronzer, but still with its kind of like slightly firmer texture, I can still blend it on top of skin that is set, and it's not going to pick up my foundation or my powder. So I'm very happy about that. I feel like this is quite easy to work with as well. But my most favorite cream bronzer of the year, even not over Danessa's, because Danessa I put in like almost like the cream contour bronzer category, but this is truly a bronzer. I wouldn't wear this to contour with, is the Say cream bronzer. I have my shade in deep bronze. I did originally have both of the shades, medium bronze and deep bronze, but I found myself reaching for deep bronze most, so I ended up decluttering medium bronze because it was quite light, like it was a barely there type of bronzer. So this shade, I love everything about it because even though it looks like it's quite deep, and it is quite deep, it shears out so nicely. So kind of like Danessa's, it blends so beautifully into the skin. But like I said, this is an actual bronzing shade, very warm against my complexion. It has a reddish hue to it, but it's more brown than red, so I don't look sunburned or anything like that. I love everything about this. I did a video where I actually compared the Chanel to this one, and I most definitely would choose the Say cream bronzer over Chanel. Formulation is kind of similar to Chanel, so it is less emollient than Danessa's. It has a little bit of a firmer texture, but where the Say won for me over Chanel, number one was price point. I think this one is like around 50 to 60, and this is like 26. But this one blended just a little bit better than Chanel. So I would say out of these three cream bronzers, in terms of emolliency, Chanel's gonna be, if I could say, the stiffer of the one, but don't take stiff as it can't move because it does move. It's just, you know, out of these three, I would go with Chanel as being the stiffest, Say is gonna be in the middle, and then Danessa's is gonna be the most emollient. But once again, all three of these are quite beautiful. I still use all three, but I definitely use my Say cream bronzer the most. Now on to powder bronzer. So we got the cream bronzers out the way. Now let's go to powder bronzer. So starting with Wayne Goss's Radiant Bronze. So I have two shades. This is the Radiance Boosting Face palette. And the one shade that I have been using the most this year is the shade Deep Copper. So this is Deep Copper. This is the deepest shade that he does have. So I'm really hoping that Wayne does expand and deepen his shades in this bronzer because it is such a beautiful, radiant, beautiful bronze against the skin. I said beautiful a couple of times with that one. So for this one, I would use this to really bronze the skin, and then I would use this shade to contour my nose. So like I said, the majority of the year, I reached for this one. Recently, when I was doing my declutter, I was like, let me try the other lighter shades. So this is the shade Satin Bronze, and this actually shows up like pretty good against my complexion. Looking at it, I was like, this is not gonna bronze my complexion, but it actually does. So once again, going in with this shade to bronze the face, and this is a beautiful contour for the nose, like an actual contour shade for the nose. And I love how he does have a bronzing shade and a contour shade in both of these bronze palettes. The lightest shade does not show against my complexion, so I can't use that, but I can use both of these shades. The powders blend effortlessly, and if you've ever tried any of Wayne's powders, you know the blendability is just right there. So just put it in, you know, a bronzer shade, and it's beautiful and gorgeous. So I tend to like more matte bronzers. So these are radiant enough to where you can see just a glow, but not so radiant to where I feel like I've done like I've added shimmer onto my bronzer, because I don't like that look. So I really enjoy these. And as of late, I've been reaching for Satin Bronze, the lighter of the two, but I love those as a powder bronzer. Like, those travel with me. Love it. Okay, then we have the Dior Forever Natural Bronze. I have the shade 07 Golden Bronze, and this is just a beautiful, stunning bronzer. I really like this bronzer for the summer because, as you can see, it has kind of that reddish hue to it. It has really great warmth to your face, and it blends really effortlessly. I've worn this a few times in the winter, but I find in the winter I like to go a little cooler with my face products. Like, I guess, you know, winter months, you've got cooler weather, so I like cooler toned products. And so I'm not reaching for this one too much, but in the summer, I did reach for this one a lot, and I loved it. Then, oh, another one that I fell in love with earlier this year, and I still reach for like time and time again, is the LYS bronzer. So this is their No Limits matte bronzer. I have the shade Courage, which is the tan shade. This is beautiful. I love this tone because, as you can see, this is more of like a, what am I trying to say? Neutral to slightly cooler tone of a bronzer. So this is a bronzer I would wear throughout the year because I love these tones and these shades of bronzer. blends effortlessly. We've got like very luxe quality of bronzer for such an affordable price. I think this is like $19. And one of my favorite things about the whole brand of LYS is that they do incorporate good skincare ingredients into their products. So like, I'll never forget when I first read about this bronzer, I'm like, it has niacinamide in it? Like the actual niacinamide that I put on my face? So it's just great for the skin, but then it works so well, blends effortlessly. Like if you've watched any of like my all-time favorite videos so far for the year, LYS has been in all of them, because that is a brand that if you have not tried, honey child, try them. So love this bronzer. And then we have, the Guerlain Terracotta Bronzer. This is the holiday edition shade. So this is shade 03. And I also have shade 05. So 03 works good for me now in the winter months where I don't have too much of a tan. Shade 05 is definitely one that I reach for in the summer when I'm more tanned. I love, number one, I do love the scent of this. Oh, love it. But I also love, I guess I am getting into radiant bronzers, because this is definitely a radiant bronzer. It just adds a beautiful glow to the face and it blends effortlessly into the skin. Like, can't go wrong with this one. I've been reaching for this one pretty consistently for the past couple of months. And I've had like my older shade 05 for like over a year, but I wanted to talk about this one because I'm still reaching for this one and I love it. Okay, so then we have, I'll talk about this one and the other one. So then I have Kosas. This is nothing new. So this is kind of like an honorable mention because this obviously didn't come out this year, but I love it, still reach for it. This is the shade Deep. This is a reddish radiant bronzer. I'm like getting my words together. And I love this one. So like this is just an honorable mention just to let you know this is still a favorite of mine, even though it didn't come out this year. But I love the formula of this one. It really blends well into the skin. And sometimes if I want to have more of a radiance, because I will say this is the most radiant of the bronzers that I have. Like you can actually almost see like a very noticeable sheen against the cheek. So I will either top like a more matte bronzer with this, or if I really just want to like glow, that's when I'll just use this one alone. But I love the tone of this one, and like I said, it just makes my cheeks like have a sheen, and I just love it. And then lastly, this is technically not a bronzer, but I use it as a bronzer, so that's why we're gonna have it in this category. And it is the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Palette Volume 3. So this is what it looks like. Hourglass is another one of those brands that decided they're gonna attempt to get it together, and I'm here for it because their powders are so beautiful. So these two shades I use as a bronzer, and like I said, this is a finishing powder type of palette with a highlight shade, and so I use these for my complexion as bronzers, and it just depends on what mood I'm in, which will determine which one I will use. I find myself using this shade more than I use this shade, but I love them both. Like I say, it just depends on what I'm going for. This highlighter shade is too deep for me alone, so I do need to mix it with a lighter shade and then it works. But the formulation of this, it is so smooth, effortless, buttery. These are more of radiant powder, so it is going to show up as like a radiant bronze. But once again, nothing that's going to look like I just took a whole bunch of highlighter and put it right here on the side of my face. It's just going to look like my whole face is glowing, and y'all know I'm here for that. So yes, those were my favorite cream and powder bronzers. Now, let's move on to blushes, shall we? We shall. Okay, the blush, I don't remember when these came out. I think these came out last year, and it just took me a very long time to pick them up, or they came out earlier this year. You guys can let me know in the comment section. However, I used them a ton this year, so that's why I'm going to talk about them this year. So we have the Patrick Ta Duo blushes, and oh my goodness me. I'm just sorry I waited so long to pick them up. So I have 3 shades. We have Do We Know Her, and oh, this was the shade that I initially was attracted to because I love this like corally shade, and I was like, this is gonna be great for the summertime. And I use this shade more so in the summertime, but I use this shade did I use the shade the least? Yes, I used the shade the least compared to the other two shades when I thought I would use this shade the most. But formula is amazing on these bronzers. The way that Patrick Ta says to use them, which is definitely out of the norm. He says to apply the powder blush first and then top it with a cream blush, and the glow, the sheen, and just like the glossiness that you get from that combination, chef's kiss, I tell you, chef's kiss. So I love these. So then I went and I have Oh She's Different, because I was like, this one is great too. This is one that I'll use if I'm going for a cooler tone look, and also this time of the year. Love this like mauve shade, but the shade that I fell so in love with that I bought I bought last in terms of the three that I have, and I didn't think I would like it, but oh my gosh, she's so LA. When you don't know what blush to wear and you want to keep your blush like kind of toned, but you still want to apply blush, She's So LA was and is it. Like, it's still a shade that I go for when I'm like, I don't really know what shade to wear. It just, I don't know what it is about this neutral tone of blush. It does something, and it's beautiful. It is stunning. So this is like, if I had to like get rid of these, She's So LA is by far staying. No questions asked. So I love these. The formulation, like I said, is just amazing. And I love how when the two are paired together, the powder and the cream blush, like that's the only way to wear them. It is the only way to wear them. Okay, then we go into, oh, Rare Beauty. I think these blushes came out earlier this year. I do think they did. If they did not, I'm sorry, but I wore them a lot this year. So the Rare Beauty blushes are stunning. Another just beautifully formulated cream blush. So I have all 5 of them, but the 3 shades that I reach for the most are going to be Nearly Neutral. Nearly Neutral looks like nothing in the pan. It's almost like She's So LA. You look at it, you're like, first of all, is this even gonna show up on me like talking about? But it's just another beautiful, just effortless, like barely there, but something's there type of blush. And I love blush shades like this, especially when you're like, I want to keep things kind of neutral on the cheeks, but like let the center of the face talk, like lips and eyes. Such a great shade for that. And then I love Nearly Rose. I think I used Nearly Rose the most out of all 5. Like, this is just a standard, beautiful, pinky, like poppy shade. And lastly, Nearly Mauve. Love this shade as well. Kind of, like I said, another undertone, like another understated shade, but on the cheeks really just brings them to life. This formulation in terms of emolliency is quite, it's not too emollient, but it's not too stiff, so it does still blend very well. You can apply this on unset and set skin. No issues with that. I take a stippling brush, tap, 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 and we're good to go. Love, love, love these. Then we get into, ooh, I think, yes, my favorite cream blush formula, hands down. Yes, I'm like checking with myself. Is this a yes? This is a yes. The LYS blushes, guys, I told you, LYS is all up and through this, So I am wearing one of their shades today. I'm wearing the shade Inspire, which is this shade right here, and I love it. Once again, a formulation that you don't have to worry about applying it to just unset skin. You can apply it on top of set skin, powdered skin. Does not pick up your product underneath. I take, what did I use today? I used the Songeji cheek brush. So it doesn't matter what brush I use with this, either a synthetic brush or a natural haired brush that can handle creams. Just tap it into the skin and it just blends right in. I love that these are like really nice and pigmented. So if I want to go ham and really like make my blush pop, just add more layers. But it is a quite a buildable formula, so you're not overwhelmed right out of the gate, which I think is very important for a cream formula. These are stunning. Also like $19. Can't get enough of them. So I have all the shades, and the shades, I pretty much reach for all of them, but there's 5 that I will reach for depending on what look I want. So like I said, I'm wearing Inspire today. Then my other favorite is Empower. Look at that. Stunning. Passion. I wore this a ton in the summer. Can't get enough of it. Then we have Self Love, and I love the names of these too. Beautiful, like this is another one of those like neutral toned types of blushes. And then Confidence. Once again, another beautiful toned blush that's quite neutral. So check the blushes out. I think from all of the products that I've tried from the brand, these blushes are most definitely in the top 3 products. And if you have not tried them yet, you definitely need to try them. Now let's get into powder blushes. I'm gonna start with the Pearl Blush by Chantecaille. This blush, I was like, oh, this is a cute little blush. This is what it looks like here. It's a cool toned pinky type of blush. So when added to the cheeks, really makes your cheeks look like you've been outside in the cold and they've got that flush of pink that's complementary to the cheeks, not like icy to the cheeks. And this is what this blush does. I was quite surprised by how complementary it looked against my skin. It is also a shimmer blush. And so it just adds like a nice little pop of glow. I reach for this blush at least once, maybe twice a week, depending on what look I'm going for. And I did not think I would reach for it that much. So I really enjoy this. This is a beautifully luxurious formula and I love it. Like, I genuinely love it. And I guess I'm sounding shocked because I did not think I would like the blush that much, especially the tone of the blush, but it's beautiful. And of course, the formula blends just very beautifully across the skin. Alrighty, then we get into these blushes that I was like, did these come out this year or last year? Once again, so sorry if they came out last year. I used them a lot this year. I can't remember between 20 and 21, so forgive me. But these blushes, I bought them and I was like, you know what? I don't know why I bought these, why I got sucked into the hype, because I don't even halfway like them. That's how I initially felt. And then a couple of months ago, I said, you know what? Let me just bring it on in and revisit them. And now, I think I need more, okay? These are the Hermes blushes. So I have this shade Rose Blush. Love this peachy toned blush. And then the one that I wear the most is Rose Pommette. I only have 2 right now, but I wear Rose Pommette so much. What I love about these blushes is they're quite silky. So it is a matte formula and they're just so silky against the skin. They blend right into the skin and they almost blend like a cream, even though they are very much a powder. So it's a very luxurious formulation, and I love that the color is not too intense, but it is buildable. So if I literally want like a flush of color, I can just dip my brush into this and like fan it across my cheeks, and I get that flush of color. And then if I want to build it up to make it a little bit more prominent, I can do so with these. I just don't know. I have been reaching for these so much, and like I said, I'm just like, I think I need another one. I do. Then let's get into, Mother Pad, because she said, I'm gonna finally give y'all some blushes and I'm gonna give you 9 of them. I bought all 9. Don't regret not near one of them. I've done a whole video where I do put each shade onto my cheeks so you can see what they look like against my complexion. And the formula is not a formula that I have in a blush. This is another one of those matte formulas that almost feels quite creamy on the cheeks. Of the blushes, I think 7 of them are matte and 2 of them are like a shimmery blush. So this one right here is Desert Orchid. This is one of the shimmer blushes and I love Desert Orchid. This is kind of like another She's So LA blush tone where it's like, are you even gonna see this? But it does, it adds just a flush of color and then you get this nice sheen to it. Stunning. Okay, my other favorite color is going to be Nude Venus. And Nude Venus, I mean, look at that. Just, you know, a subtle shade, a subtle pop of color to the cheeks. This is a matte formula. Then Paradise Venus, get into it. Look at this. I'm looking at myself in the mirror because I'm like, I love these. These blushes are so good. I was like, I want to get my mom some blushes. And my mom is like, she is now die hard for them. She gets so many compliments when she wears these two next shades. And she's like, Chelsea, I never thought that with my deep, rich skin, I could actually wear blush. And I wanted to cry. And I said, thank you, Mother Pat, for allowing my mother to feel like she could actually wear an actual blush, because my mother would just take her lipstick and put it on her cheeks, which you can do. I mean, there's no rules to makeup, but she would steer away from blushes because she was like, they all make me look like a clown. And these next two shades, Electric Bloom and Love Struck, she does not feel like that. And I was like, Mother Pat McGrath will always have an even more special place in my heart for coming up with these shades, because she's made my mother feel so beautiful and like she can actually wear blush. So we have Love Struck, which, oh, this shade right here, look at it. It's so like prevalent but not overbearing. And I've already shown you a picture of my mom, so you've seen her complexion, and it just works for so many complexions. And then Electric Bloom, I don't have a color like this in my collection. And I have shades of blushes that I thought were similar to this, but they're not. Summertime Fine was all I wore right here. I know this is not the name of it, but that's just what I said. But this is such a beautiful shade. So Mother killed it with these blushes. I'm so excited to have them all. Like I said, I love all of them, and I do wear all of the shades, but these are the ones that I reach for the most, because they typically go with the looks that I typically go for. I could not forget the Nars Orgasm blush palette. Every one of these shades is stunning. So I wore this palette out. Oh shoot, I just nicked it. I wore this palette out in the summer, completely and utterly out. And I actually still reach for it, so I wouldn't say that like this is just a summer palette, but I would definitely say this is like a spring summer palette. But I mean, I could still wear these shades as highlighters. Nars Orgasm is right here. I love everything about this palette. It is a gelée type of formulation, so I love that there is no fallout, there's no kick up, and these really blend quite beautifully into the skin. And I love the sheen and the radiance that we get. This formula looks quite wet on the skin and quite glossy, and so love it. And I think that's why this worked so well in the summer, because of the look and the effect it had on the cheeks. Now, if I were ranking these, because clearly I haven't been ranking them, but I have told you what my favorites were. My favorite blush of this entire year have been these Givenchy Prisma Libra blushes. You've heard me talk about them time and time again. So if you've been watching my channel, this should not be a shock. I have shades 4, 5, and 6. There are 6 shades total. I didn't get shades 1, 2, and 3. And I'm thinking like maybe I want to go and get them. I know a couple of them are a little light, but 4, 5, and 6 work so well for me. So shade 4, well, let me tell you, in each of these blushes, you get 4 tones of the color story. So shade 4, I'll show you, is more of a cooler tone of these blushes. And I just mix all 4 of them in the cap together and apply it to the cheeks. So this is one that I wear when I have cooler toned looks. My most used shade, I would say, probably a shade 5, this pink blush shade here. And even with this being more of like a warmer looking blush, you still get a cool version of this color story and then a warmer version. And then shade 6, I wear a lot. So I wear shade 4 the least because I tend to wear more warm toned looks. But shades 5 and 6, I wear the most. These are still not released in the US of A, but I did get these off of Feel Unique, and I will link that down below. They do ship to the US. I think it took me like maybe a couple weeks to get them, so shipping was not bad at all, and I had no issues getting them. I mean, it's a powder blush, right? It just blends into the skin, and I don't know what it is about these blushes, because I don't feel like they do anything spectacular per se, but for them to be matte blushes, they blend effortlessly into the skin. And what I mean by that is sometimes, okay, so I don't like matte blushes. I like a shimmer blush. Let me put that out there. So I typically don't reach for a matte blush, but these have like a matte formula, but when they're on the cheek, they don't look matte and flat and dull like my cheeks look like I have some life. I traveled with these all year. I mean, I do the most traveling, but anytime I went out of town, these came with me. I still will always travel with them. I may not travel with all 3, but trust and believe me, at least one of these is coming with me. I cannot sing these praises enough, like these blushes. I love blush, and I don't want this to happen, but if something happened and all my blushes were no longer existing, these would be the ones I would buy first. No questions asked. Let's lastly get into these highlighters. So first, I really enjoyed the Dior highlighters that came out this year. And the one that I enjoyed the most is Peach Dune. So I think this one is discontinued because it was, I want to say this was like from the spring collection. And I love this formulation of the Dior highlighters. They're so like banging, like they're quite intense, but you can definitely share them out. I love how they blend into the skin. And one of their permanent shades that I love is shade 03. Just like I said, a very intense, like wet, glossy look on the skin. I love highlighters like that. So I wanted to highlight those. Highlight the highlighters. And then another one by Chantecaille is the Pearl Highlighter. I did not think this one was going to show up against my skin. I got it in PR and I was like, okay, I'm going to try it on my face because they sent it to me. I hope it works, and it does work. It's so beautiful. It's like that beautiful, like pinkish, goldish, kind of cooler toned blush. It's not icy to where it looks ashy, because it does have a gold base to it, but it's not so gold that it's only going to show up against warmer complexions. But this is going to definitely work for deeper complexions. So I don't know if like an NC50 could wear this highlighter, and if you do have it and you can wear it, please leave it in the comment section below so we know. But I definitely feel like if you have at least a shade or two deeper than me, you could still wear this highlighter and it look complementary against your skin. Formulation is so smooth. It's like a cream formula, like a cream highlighter, even though it's a powder. So it's like, it's very smooth and blendable into the skin. Then we have Mother Pat. So she came out with this highlighter, and of all the Pat McGrath highlighters that I have, this is my favorite one. I don't know what it is the actual tone of the highlighter that I love the most. And then the formula is good too. This is almost like a gelée texture, but we do get fallout, which sometimes typically we don't get fallout with that type of formulation. But the tone of this highlighter is so pretty, and I do love the embossing. I'm not gonna lie, it's royalty. But really enjoy this one by Mother Pat. I thoroughly enjoyed the Dior Forever highlighters. So this is Coral Glow, and this is a highlighter that if you have textured skin and you want a highlighter but you don't want it to emphasize your texture too much, I would definitely try these ones by Dior, because the formula is quite blendable and I feel like it does blend very nicely into the skin. So although if you have texture on the skin, a highlight is going to, you know, make that area radiate, I think this gives us more of like a lit from within glow versus like a stark strip of highlighter. So I love this formulation. And I also have the shade Golden Glow, which is right here. Coral Glow, the pink shade that I showed before. Sometimes I would use that as a blush and a highlighter all in one. This highlighter, I said, it is everything I don't need, but everything that I want. Hermes highlighter in the shade Permabrass. This is the perfect champagne highlighter. I love this highlighter. You don't need it, but if you want it, you're gonna love it. It's so beautiful, blends into the skin just like butter. I mean, just like butter, and I'm so happy that I have it. This also is like a gelée type formulation, very similar to, I would say very similar to the Dior highlighters that I just showed you. So I think this is also a really good formulation that if you do have textured skin, it's not going to like overemphasize your texture. But I need more, Hermes. I need more. Then we get into, ooh, are y'all tired of hearing about LYS? Because I'm not. They came out with highlighters this year and every one of them slays. So this is their deepest shade called Fearless. This is the warm bronze highlighter. Then we have Genuine, which is the rose gold one. And my favorite shade is going to be Brave, which is the champagne one. These are so high shine, sunning, very like wet and glossy on the skin. Kind of like the Dior highlighter where it just looks like kind of glossy and wet. These do as well, but you can control the sheen. So if you don't want it to be too intense, Don't apply a lot, but if you want it to in your face, these will give it to you. Once again, extremely affordable, $19, and formulated with great skincare. Like, you cannot beat it. Those highlighters, I would say, definitely were like a highlight, haha, pun intended, against my highlighter collection. Like, definitely one of my top 3 favorite highlighters from the year. And then the highlighter that I'm wearing on my face. You see her? She's cute. The highlighters from the Natasha Denona Glam Face and Eye Palette. They had to be recognized, okay? Had to be. This is the highlighter that I'm wearing, and oh, it's just so intense, but so blendable into the skin. So I love that it's not stark and sitting on top of my skin. I didn't even have to spray my face or take my foundation brush or take my setting or finishing powder and blend it into the skin. It just blends so nicely into the skin. I would say that this formulation is one that I think would work well with textured skin. If you had textured skin, I would probably suggest taking a setting spray and then just pressing it into the skin even more so your texture is not overly pronounced. But it blends and glides over the skin so well that I think it's a formula that you could enjoy and you could definitely work with quite easily. The blush in these palettes are just okay. I didn't talk about them because they're okay. I would suggest going in with either a synthetic brush for the blush or a dual-haired brush, and I feel like it works well with that. But it's not the most blendable, but I can make it work. And then on my eyes, just in case you wanted to know, I am wearing these eyeshadows. I have the shade Crease in the crease, the shade Smoke on the outer corner of the eye and the lower lash line, and then this shade Outer Corner across the majority of the lid, and then Inner Corner I have on the inner corner. So I guess I kind of use these the way that they were supposed to be used according to the palette. But the highlighters in both this light palette and also the dark palette, I mean, for what this palette was worth, I would pay for it just for the highlighter alone. And that's that. So those are my favorite blush, bronzers, and highlighters for the year of 2021. I love all of these, and I just think they're so beautiful and they're so worth the money. If I had to tell you what my favorite highlighter was, because I didn't tell y'all that, I don't know. I'm gonna tell you what I reached for the first, because maybe that just is my favorite one. Hermes. This is the first one I picked up when I was trying to decide. It is this one. So of the year, this is my favorite highlighter of the year. So thank you so much for watching this video. Definitely let me know down in the comment section what your favorite bronzer, blush, and highlighter is of this year, whether it came out this year or it's just the one that you've been using the most this year. And if you've made it to this point in the video and you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I would love for you to consider subscribing and joining the Glam Girl Squad. And guys, we are almost done with Chelsea. We've made it this far and I'm so excited. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope to see you in my very next video. Bye guys.